Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. I'm Stephen Brown. With me is Jason Booker, and we're here to discuss all things Leeds United. Now, we normally do a post-match review. We didn't manage it at the weekend. Mine and Jason's schedules, we just didn't sync up. You know, we've got a life to lead, haven't we, Jason?
I know, mate.
Commitments to meet. We can't always do it, but certainly we wanted to do something post the match. And actually, it's been a pretty news-heavy day with Leeds, particularly today. A lot of interesting tidbits coming out of the club, exits, potential exits. So yeah, some stuff to get our teeth into. If you're watching along, please do smash a like on the video. Get your comments in. What do you think after beating Plymouth? Leicester having a wobble as well, which is lovely to see. Jason, we beat Plymouth 2-1. It was comfortable-ish, certainly comfortable for about 80 minutes, but got it done in the end. Kind of what's your overall thoughts of that kind of game and how important it was to keep that momentum going?
I think after the Leicester result, obviously it was a huge game. I think a lot of Leeds fans had kind of already boxed it off as being a huge banana skin on the back of what was a massive 3 points against Leicester. It's the first game this season that I've not watched all 90 minutes of it. Unfortunately, was out in the cold at Park Avenue. Did see an interesting game myself, but it was on work duties, so I kind of felt like I had no choice but to be there watching the Leeds game, unfortunately, which is the downside of Championship football, isn't it? All 3 o'clock kickoffs. So anyway, from what I've seen of the game, and I've seen a fair amount of it, we dominated the first half. Flowing, attacking football once again, very similar to shades of the Huddersfield performance in first half. Unfortunately, it came back to bite us on the bum again a little bit in that we weren't as clinical as what we probably should have been. The start of the second half carried on in the same vein, and we had chances to wrap the game up, which it wouldn't have mattered. Very similar to the Huddersfield game that we conceded one a little bit later on in the second half, and it didn't matter. Whereas, unfortunately, on Saturday it did matter. We then are left in a position where we're having to see out the final 10 minutes of the game, and anything can happen at that moment, can't it? Like one long ball, a missed clearance, one corner ricochets off a defender, it goes in, and the whole performance then means nothing if you're only taking a point away from the game. However, that didn't happen. We showed that we have grown and come on from performances previously, the likes of against Sheffield Wednesday, where we're just not able to break them down and score and get the goals. We did, and we took the 3 points, and we deserve to take the 3 points as well. So I think it's a huge result on the back of the Leicester victory, especially with what happened elsewhere. Because it's funny, isn't it, how quickly things turn. Going into that Leicester game, they could have been 17 points clear of us, and 2 games later, and I said this after the Leicester result, 2 games later, they're now only 8 points in front of us. And if we could catch Ipswich, well, we can now catch Leicester because they're on the same points, guys. Yeah. So it's wild. It is wild how quickly things can change.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Gail, hello, welcome along. Nice to see you. Good to see the Foxes slipping up. Are they having a genuine wobble, Leicester? They've lost back-to-back games. It's funny reading some of their Twitter, some of their fans on Twitter, because they're kind of saying, no, we're not panicking, it's fine. But have they lost their heads a bit? Are they having a bit of a wobble? What do you make of it? Apparently they were, they had a lot of chances against Middlesbrough. It certainly wasn't like the Leeds game. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because like you say, they could have been miles in front. 17 points in front were up for grabs, and now it's reduced to just 8, which even, 3 weeks ago, I thought we wouldn't get that close. Not for a while, anyway.
I think there's a couple of things at play for me. Like, they've lost to 2 good sides. That's the first thing. Leeds, as much as we can kind of be biased, we are one of the best teams in the league, if not the best team in the league. Excuse me. Their start to the season has been unbelievably abnormal. Like, that can't carry on forever. Not in any. Look at Man City. Like Man City still went to Wolves the other week and lost. And, they would be considered to be the team that will run away with the league. Like, it's not normal that you will continue to just carry on winning games week after week after week, because things happen. You have games where you turn up and can't score. You have games where you turn up and the opposition just bang everything in that goes in, or deflections bobble and whatnot. So their run has been incredible. And the third thing, and I think probably the most important thing to remember, is they haven't actually played that well at all this season. I've seen them 4 or 5 times live, full games, and the general consensus of the reporting is that Leicester have not actually played that well at all. When you are playing like that and not playing that well, eventually the goals are going to dry up and you're not going to be winning as many games. And back-to-back games now, they've not scored. And I mean, against us, they didn't really look like scoring. They had one long-range effort that hit the bar, and that aside, really, and the chance late on by Dewsbury-Hall. But that was it, really, over a 90-minute period against us. So, I mean, I tend to agree with Fergal. I still think that Leicester will go up. But best believe their fans and, people in and around the club, I think, will be a little bit worried. I do. Like, but losing back-to-back games when you're going for the title is never good. Never good. So
No, and it's kind of been threatening to happen, like you say, for a while, because I agree. A lot of the stuff I was hearing about Leicester is they've not played that well. They've not played like some of the high points Leeds have hit have probably been the best in the league. Up there with Ipswich. I mean, let's have a look. I mean, Gail's mentioned it here. I've been expecting Ipswich slipping up, and I mean, Ipswich again conceded 2 goals at the weekend. They're conceding 2 goals every game. Nearly.
We are seeing Ipswich slipping up as well, though. So sure, they got back to winning ways at the weekend, but before that, they'd drawn back-to-back games.
Yeah.
They dropped 4 points, and one of them games were against Rotherham. After they were behind in the game, and then went in front with 4 minutes to go, and they still couldn't see that game out. And Rotherham are terrible. I mean, Rotherham got smashed 5-0 at the weekend by Watford. So, for me, we are seeing a slip on Ipswich as well. And Ipswich's form, for me, is even more likely to curtail off than Leicester's. Because Ipswich are having to, as Brown has just said, score 3 or 4 goals to win a game every week. That can't continue. That is not sustainable. And we saw it against us at their place earlier on this season. I mean, they'd scored 3 goals at home and lost the game. So, it's wild, really. So I do expect that. There must be fun to watch on the weekly, I've got to say. But it's just not sustainable, especially once the legs start tiring out.
Yeah, no, I agree totally. Alison, welcome along. Evening all. We need to keep the pressure up. CB, 8 points off the top. Come on, you Whites. It's looking so positive at the minute. And we were thinking a few games ago, I certainly was, can we bridge this gap? That was the big question. Have we given ourselves too much to do? But to be honest, Farker was 100% right. Wasn't looking at the league table. It was all about performances and getting the confidence up. You look again at the team at the weekend, Jason, and albeit Strauch being out, that pretty much looks like the team. I mean, for me, a man who's taken a bit of stick recently, or people been questioning his impact, I hold my hands up. I've done that. Is Joe Perreault. I thought it was superb at the weekend. I thought it was like a typical understated Joe Perreault performance where he's so good technically at standing on the ball and those little switches that he can do and those little turns. Physically he might not be fast or whatever, but again, he times his run perfectly for his goal and it's a good finish. It is working. I know it might not always look like it's working, and maybe he could have had a couple more goals or more impact. Some games he's having a low amount of touches, but I don't know. I mean, I think it's working.
He's the only player in the team that finishes that chance like he did at the weekend. I think every other player in our team, every other single one, including the strikers, in the squad, in the likes of Bamford, I think they try and put it around the keeper, whereas Perreault has the composure, the confidence, the awareness to place it through the legs of the keeper, and that was a perfect finish. And he's missed some chances that I would have fully expected him to at least get on target this season. I can think of 3 or 4. There were the one away at Hull that were massive because they were a part of the game where we if we'd have scored, we'd have probably gone on to cruise the game. The chance at Leicester early on at Leicester. He doesn't get enough whip on it and he puts it wide. But the great thing about Perreault is that it never looks like he takes that into the next chance. No. It just looks like he's forgotten about it and he's on to the next one. It don't bother him. Jermaine Beckford used to be the same. Ross McCormack used to be the same. Natural scorers of goals like that. They brush it off like it's nothing. I thought it was excellent. I thought the link-up play from what I saw of the game on Saturday, I thought it was very, very good. The run around the back of Somerville for the goal was perfect. Beautiful. You don't need pace when you can do that. Teddy Sheringham was well known for scoring goals like that and his movement within the box and being a bit of a fox in the box. And he never had pace and he played until he was 40. Like a lot of it's up here. It's in what's going on in terms of the thought process, which is why Daniel Farke's made the point that it's a bigger picture for the team in terms of what he does. Pulling players out of position and occupying defenders. If a centre back's instructed to follow Perrault and he's playing as a number 10 and he's much closer to the halfway line, that brings that centre back a long way if he comes with him, or he's having to be aware of him from much further back, which then allows spaces for the likes of Somerville, Dan James, and these players to then pick up them spots, Rutter, to pick up them spots and create chaos. I mean, the first goal at the weekend was from chaos. Wasn't it? Really?
But Plymouth just kept giving us the ball. They were like, we don't want it. You, Kia, take it. I mean, the amount of turnovers and amount of times they just gave us the ball. I mean, there was a Cooper on the pitch that had a nightmare, but it wasn't Liam. It was their goalkeeper. I mean, the amount of times he just kept giving us the ball, it was phenomenal, to be honest. Let's have a look. Eric, welcome along, mate. Evening all, first time here. Do subscribe and smash a like on the video, mate. Much appreciated as always. So lots of positives again from us. Interesting, Cooper came into the team and was seamless for me. Did what Cooper does.
I thought he played well.
I thought he played very well, very solid for coming in for Strauch. We saw the return of certain Mr. Junior Firpo as well. Looking at it, he's certainly going to have enough, I think, in his forward play. I would suspect. I would think. I don't know what he's going to be like when he's tested. I don't know if some people are trying to pin the goal on him as well because of his advanced position or not.
It was very high up, wasn't it?
It was high up. It's one of those that makes you nervous because now Sam Byram's out. I don't actually know what the issue is or how long he's expected to be out. Hamstring. Oh, okay. As Gail says here, Firpo help. But I mean, looking at the game at the week, I thought he's got to be good enough to do a job at this level, surely.
I will until he proves me otherwise, because he's never done anything to show us anything other than this defensively. I will say that he's the worst defensive fullback we've ever seen. I honestly, I will hang my mast on it, mate. I would not recruit Junior Firpo.
Scott Wotton?
He's worse than Scott Wotton. He's worse than Bassone. He's worse than... I saw somebody say McCarthy earlier. Like defensively, I'm talking defensively. The defensive, just the basic defensive abilities of a fullback. Junior Firpo is horrendous. I wouldn't recruit him in League Two. I genuinely would. He's that bad defensively because he's not even got blistering pace to then get himself out of problems, which some fullbacks do have. He squares up. Like, he doesn't even hold himself like a defensive-minded player. He runs backwards like this instead of like a diagonal. He's just all wrong. He's just a terrible, terrible defender. And some people are going to be like, "No, Jay, like you're mad, you're off your head." I'm telling you, like if you were to look at him from a scouting perspective, if I was to be sent out as a League Two scout, I would get laughed at if I brought him back and say, "Yeah, you can do a job for you defensively." Now, I'm not talking about going the other way because that's a different phase of the game, but defensively, and a massive part of a fullback's job is to defend. Like it's some people argue with me that fullbacks are not in the team to defend anymore. That's rubbish. It's rubbish. Like, it's not as important as it was in the 90s and early 2000s when the likes of Gary Neville might have been the best right back in the league. Like, sure, they're not expected to do that much defending anymore. But how many times do we complain about Luke Ayling being caught out defensively and we say that's where the goal comes from? Well, what's the difference? Like, it just honestly blows my mind how many people get it wrong with him. I don't know whether he were at fault for the goal or not. Really, again, some of it can be instructional as well. But my gut feeling is if Sam Byram was in the team at the moment that ball came over the top, Byram would have been naturally 5 or 10 yards further back, which had then probably seen the chance cleared. That's my gut feeling. Now, some of that is Byram's qualities, some of that's his natural abilities. Are probably more weighing towards defense than attack, but he's not the answer. I'm telling you, he's not the answer. He's so slow, he's so spatially unaware, and I don't think what he gives us going the other way is worth the offset. Like Trent, as an example. Trent's a great example because Trent's not great defensively, but he gives you so much going forward. His delivery is so good that it's worth the offset of then sometimes he's going to give up a goal the other way. Firpo's not that. He's just not.
No, I know. It's we've got a body of evidence, haven't we, over the last 2 years as well to suggest it. But
I want him to prove me wrong.
Yeah, of course.
The basics that he's got, it's not like a player that's playing out of form that's trying to find his form again. It's basic natural footballing skills that he should have learned years and years ago. And when he were at Betis, he had a lot more pace. So he was able, and he was asked to play a lot further forward as well. He was never asked to play left back. It's just a terrible piece of recruitment. It's just a terrible, terrible piece of recruitment. We replaced Alioski, who wasn't already a left back, with another player that wasn't a left back, really. And Alioski at least had the desire. How many times do we watch Junior Firpo walking back or ambling back over the halfway line? It drives me mad, mate. Like
there's something in the body language, like you say. When you look at Sam Byram, he's always switched on. He's always the intensity is always there in Sam Byram. I mean, you saw it straight away in pre-season. Watching Sam Byram at left back, I was like, wow, this is what we've been missing. Someone who plays with a bit of intensity and is switched on. You know, we haven't had that for so long in that position. It's just a bit of a joke.
I 100% agree with something I've seen a few other people speak about, and Joe Wayne speaks particularly strongly about it. I do believe that Firpo likes to spend time off the pitch as well. Like, the biggest problem that we've had with Junior Firpo is that we've not seen enough of him. He don't get games.
No pre-season. He's always
never
injured. Fit for a pre-season. He's never done a pre-season.
They came out and said, did Leeds the other day, that the amount of time that he's had off is the same time as rehabilitation of an ACL injury, which is 9 to 12 months. That's just crazy. Like, it's crazy. And for me, it just shows a lack of desire and determination to actually want to be on the pitch. For me, it's an absolute must that we get somebody in there. Because, again, we've seen this twice now with Sam, that he can't really keep going every week, which we understand. Like, his body's just not capable of doing that, which is a shame.
Yeah, and he's done a fantastic job. I mean, you know, even if he only got back for, say, another 10 or 15 appearances, you know, he's done a sterling job, hasn't he, to see us through to this point, really. Interesting one here from Skip. I'd be interested to see what you think of this, Jason. We're still missing something within the starting 11, but not sure what it is. Do you get that sense, Jason, when you're watching Leeds now? Are you seeing a complete team? Or do you think there's a few missing pieces to the puzzle, maybe Jed Spence? Or, you know,
I agree with him, and I agree with Skip. I was just going to say that one of them's already with the club, and that's Jed Spence.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that he will make us look totally different down that side. And I thought Archie had a great game at the weekend, but he's just not a natural fullback, and he's not got blistering pace. We said that the other week. Whereas Spence has both of them qualities. And I think the other is on the other side. Like, as much as Byram's filled in that position, he's not a natural left back, and there's still too many times where he's having to cut it inside, or like he's forcing the ball on his left foot, or he gets to the byline and he can't whip in a proper cross. If we had, I mean, I hate banging on about him, but I watched Burnley the other week when Charlie Taylor were whipping balls in for fun from left back. And he's not got blistering pace like Charlie Taylor, but he's naturally really good on his left side, and his crosses, his deliveries are really, really good. If we had somebody of that kind of ilk, it doesn't have to be another Jed Spence, as nice as that would be on the other side. I think we'd see so much more from this tactic, because you'd just be overrunning teams. You'd just be absolutely overrunning them, mate.
Yeah, it's the international break now, and fingers crossed Spence gets back and gets some games under his belt, because it's one of those situations. We're in November now, and he's only had a substitute appearance for, whatever it was, 10 minutes against Sheffield Wednesday. It's really vital that he gets a run of games now and stays fit. Otherwise, it's a waste, isn't it, really? You just want him to get in, get settled, and really, show us what he's about.
100%. I mean, it's part of football, though. Like, I never get too hung up on injuries too much, because I think, other than the season under Bielsa, where we literally were down to the bare bones and we had like 8 first-team injuries, or whatever, I think, long, medium, short-term injuries are just a part of football. And the facts are, right now, Pascal's obviously just gone out, but prior to that, we had 1 injury. It happens. They're playing in a contact sport where they're pushing the physical boundaries of the bodies every day in training to then get ready for a game. It just happens, and unfortunately for us, it's happened to Jed Spence. But we'd be saying the same if it had have happened to Pirot or Rutter or Somerville or Ampadu. And the facts that we've only got 1 first-team injury, I just think, well, that's just football. So, I try not to get too hung up on him, because I just think there's nothing you can do about it. We're going to have another one before the end of the season. I don't think Pascal will be back that quick either. He's having a double hernia operation. It takes a bit of time to come back from that.
Yeah, we're going to miss him as well, aren't we, with his distribution and everything. Gale, Somerville and James on fire at the moment. Dan James, I mean, another superb finish at the weekend. The impact this guy is having this season. I mean, you've raved about him, this season, because obviously there's been a lot of critics about him, and you've got a guy called Gnonto on the bench who is a top prospect, and James is keeping him on that bench.
Yeah, you know what it is, man? And again, without repeating myself too much, I just think people are so quick to attach certain stigmas to certain people and certain players. I think we're all guilty of it as football fans, whether it be an opposition player, whether it be, a player that plays for your team. Quite often, homegrown players get looked after, while, players that come in from the outside get looked on in a certain way. I still think when Dan James first came to us, he was hit with the stigma of playing for Man United. Some fans won't want to admit that. I think it's the case. He can sometimes be guilty, sure, of being wasteful. He was asked to play up front for a year, which is not a natural position of his in the slightest, but we had no choice, or Bielsa saw it as having no choice. And I think all them things together have compounded in people not really giving him a chance. And I think, this season, he's been exceptional. And I think there is a point to what Eric's saying there. I think he definitely is now being coached. But bear in mind, he had a year under Bielsa, and we want to say that Bielsa's one of the best coaches that we've ever had, and he is. So we can't say that he didn't have a proper coach at Leeds ever. You know what I mean? Like, he had a good period of time under Marcelo.
Had to play up front, though, didn't he? He had to play up front for Bielsa, though, didn't he? Part of the issue, wasn't it?
I just think, and again, people are so quick to just observe the ball. He's whipped a cross in. Nobody's headed it. It's Dan James's fault. Well, what about all the things that are attached to that? The movement of the striker, who else is in there, and all the things that come with that. And the fact that, I've said it before, Dan James puts his balls on the line, and he tries to do them difficult passes. He tries to make them difficult moments. I've had my grievances with Somerville previously, because I think sometimes he will avoid doing them passes and go back inside. Gnonto is especially bad for it. He'll, rather than putting in his neck on the chopping block, he'll turn back inside and give an easy 5-yard pass inside. Dan James won't do that. He'll try and get to the byline and whip it in, or he'll try and whip it in from deep, and sometimes it won't come off. But you can see in the tallies, I mean, without Dan James this season, his goal involvements are 11, 12 and goals and assists. Like, he's had a huge part to play.
Yeah, no, absolutely phenomenal he's been. Skip, I didn't rate DJ since we bought him to Ellen Road, but this season he's been outstanding. Shut me up. He's probably one of the first names on the team sheet now. Yeah, we really missed him, didn't we, in that Stoke game as well when he was dropped? Really missed it.
He works his nuts off as well. Like defensively, he's by far the best winger that we've got. And that's even more crucial while we've got Archie at right back because he really supports him. And I just think he's a winner. And the thing that I love about him the most is that he really, really wants to play for Leeds. Like, I remember the pre-season interview that he gave where he said that he was delighted that he were back. And you could tell there was some like real genuine feeling towards it. And let's be fair, prior ownership and management treat him like crap. Like, he started the first 3 games under Jesse Marsh last season and then were bombed out on the final day.
It's been such a strange series of events with Dan James at Leeds, going back to when he originally was going to be signed, and then at the 12th hour, it fell through. I mean, it's been a bizarre run for him. It feels almost like this is his first period at the club where there isn't that chaos going on so much, and it is being given a proper try.
He scares Championship defenders to death. He absolutely scares them to death because his pace is just unnatural. Like, he's so rapid. And one thing that I do think he's massively improved on is he's composing himself a little bit more when he's striking the ball, in crossing and in finishing. I don't think he finishes that chance at the weekend a year ago. But now he's taken a moment just to settle on the ball and look where he's placing it and whipping the ball in. A couple of weeks ago against Bristol City, left foot into the bottom corner, back from where it came. I don't think he finishes that a year ago. So definitely Daniel Farke deserves some credit as well. But I think all the credit needs to go to Daniel James because I think he's come back and he's shown that he wants to be a part of this in the Championship. For me, he is the first name. I think he, with probably the exception of Rutter, is our most key player. I really do. I think I'd play him over Somerville if it were a choice between the two. Just for me personally, I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I just would. I think we've got players that I think Rodon's huge as well. But obviously Ampadu as well. And I mean we can go through Kamara. Like they're all finding the places. But for me, Dan James is huge. He's absolutely massive in this team right now.
Yeah, definitely. Georginio Rutter, how much would he be worth if he could strike a football, do you think?
He wouldn't be playing in Championship, would he?
No. I mean, do you know, honestly, for me, he is the magic in this team. I just love watching Rutter all day long. The bit where he does a pirouette and then chips the ball through. I mean, just magic in his boots, but just cannot strike a football.
It's strange though, isn't it? Because when he's striking the football and it's not at goal, he strikes it perfectly. His weight of pass is phenomenal. His decision making in the pass is phenomenal. If he's knocking the ball past an opponent, he knocks it past him to the perfect degree, so then he can stride onto it. But then when he gets put with the job of putting the ball past the keeper and into the goal, it's like he just loses all bearing of where he's at. The chance at the weekend where Somerville put it onto him, even he were laughing at it. Even Gio were kind of like laughing and looking at some of us. I'm just a donkey. Like that's kind of what it looked like. I'm an idiot. I mean, if he could do that, mate, he would be 50-60 million pounds worth of player and he'd be playing in the Premier League. That is the truth. And I mean, we are seeing why the scouting team at Leeds decided that he was worth 35 million. We are seeing it. And I also understand why he's not an out-and-out 9. I understand, going back to the Pirro conversation as to why they are interlinking the way that they are, and Pirro is then intended to find himself in the 9 position, and Rutter's intended to drop a little bit further back and all that. I get it. But yeah, if he could just settle down. But I saw somebody made the comparison, and this is a wild comparison, with Thierry Henry the other day. But when Henry first came onto the scene, it was a left winger who couldn't finish. That was well profiled until Wenger got hold of him at Arsenal and then developed him into the striker that he ended up becoming. And while I don't think he'll hit the heights of a Thierry Henry, I understood the comparison because that can be trained, because all that Rutter's missing is the composure. It's that that breath that we're just talking about with Dan James. It's that moment before striking the ball, because he's got the technical ability to do it. We see from him all that one where he did the pirouette and then chipped it over for Pirro. He scoops it and that's insane technical ability to be able to do that. So I just think it's that next step of his mental development to be able to improve in that area, and we could have one hell of a player on his hands if we can keep hold of him that long. That is,
if we can, let's go up. Make sure we do. Just final thoughts on the Plymouth game, then, Jason. How concerned were you by the fact that it became pretty tight at the end? We concede and we put ourselves under pressure. Do we need to be concerned about that, or is it just, look, it's Championship life? We missed our chances. This was always a possibility. Put it to bed. We've got the 3 points. It doesn't matter.
I think, while we're talking about things like Gio not being
clinical,
that's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, not being clinical, and we're having this amount of chances and not scoring 4 or 5 while we had the dominance in the game. I think these games are going to happen, and Plymouth are not a bad side. Morgan Whittaker is one of the informed players in the division. He barely had a sniff. I think, did he end up getting the assist for the goal? I think. He did, yeah. In the end, but we kept him pretty quiet for most of the game. And I think, we still did more than enough to win the game, really. If we'd have finished 2-0, it'd have been, this were a really comfortable home win for Leeds and on to the next one. And I think most weeks we probably do score another 1 or 2 goals in that game and win it even more comfortably. So I'm not particularly worried about it. Again, you can't just smash teams off the pitch every week. There is 2 teams trying to win a football game. So, not for me, mate. I'm not worried, personally.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I want to bring up something Skip's dropped into the chat, and it kind of moves us forward to, despite it only being November, quite a lot of transfer rumours flying about at the moment with Leeds players. Skip, if an acceptable fee comes in for Gnonto in January, do we sell him, and what would that fee be? Great question. Interesting with Gnonto, because he seems to be the first pick from the bench.
Yeah,
certainly him and Anthony. And I like having someone of that quality to bring in. I'm not going to lie. I think if you sell Gnonto, and then you've got Jadon Anthony, you've got potentially Pervader, but I like that we've got someone of that quality that we can bring in. And I know that, he's been inconsistent and he's not hit their heights that possibly we thought he was going to do, but, he's got limited game time at the moment. However, big fee comes in, 25, 30, 35 million. I mean, what would you do with that, Jess?
I'm going to say the same thing that I said in the summer window. If 35 million had come in for Gnonto, for me, I'd have sold him in the summer. It'd have been gone for me. Not because, not 35 million quid's a lot of money for a player that we paid 5 million quid for. Yeah. And I'm going to make the point again. How much have we actually seen of Gnonto really hitting extreme heights to think that he's worth 35 million quid? I would say he's probably had 5 games where I thought, yeah, what a player. Like, there were more. I mean, we were so bad last season that anything that came about was kind of like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, we all did it about Max Verber when Verber first came in. So for me, a few highlights aside from last season, and I'm not even talking about the requesting transfer. Like, I'm not bothered about that. Like, he's a young player who was probably badly advised by an agent. Not bothered about that. The 35 million for me right now for our 3rd choice winger, I would take it in January. I'd take that. Enjoy being able to balance the books a little bit more because we have to. Like, there is a certain part of that takes effect in it. And I would go out and I would sign a number 10, and I would then leave the space open for Perot to play up front or Rutter to play out on this other wing position that we've got. Yeah, so we've got then other options. So if we just say, for argument's sake, if we signed Amiri, let's just go back and just say that we signed Amiri. Amiri then can take the 10 spot. He can also play out wide as an inverted forward as well, but he plays as 10. Perot competes with Rutter for the number 9 position, or Rutter goes out and plays on the wing. And we've then got us 4 wingers anyway. So then if it's Somerville or Dan James that drops to the bench to make room for Rutter playing out wide, then so be it. I'm okay with that. For me, that makes a lot more sense than keeping Gnonto on the bench worth 35 million quid in the Championship. Because I think I do think that the value will depreciate the more he sits on the bench and doesn't play. I think at the moment it's probably holding in place because it's on the back of this transfer request and all the rest of it. I think past this January, I think if you're keeping him on the bench, I think we start to see a depreciating asset from 35, because 35 million is an exorbitant amount of money for a player that's barely played, especially barely played Championship. He can't get in Championship. He can't get over Dan James. Like, if I were a buying club, I'd be, well, okay, we want to buy Willie Gnonto because we understand his potential, but he's not making your squad in the Championship. Can you tell us why? There's no good answer that comes to that. The answer is either his attitude's bad or he's worse than Dan James and Chris Somerville. Well, why don't we then just spend 35 million quid on Dan James or Chris Somerville? You get where I'm coming from. So
I know what you mean.
There has to be this kind of thought process going on. And for me, I would tell him, mate, especially if you can then put 10 million quid into a proper top quality number 10. Going back to Skip's question from earlier, what are we missing in the squad? My opinion, left back and all the rest of it. We probably are still missing a natural out-and-out 10.
Yeah, absolutely. And apparently Amiri's been regretting not coming to Leeds and all that. All those kind of things are getting said now, aren't they? So God knows, dear. But it's the thing with Gnonto. I just think he did sour things, and he soured his progress with the transfer request. I think the feeling around him kind of soured from that moment. And, once you lose that momentum at a club, it can be pretty difficult. And, the start Dan James has, a lot of people didn't expect it. And like you say, 35 million, if you get 35 million, I mean, God, you can go out and get a left back, you can get a number 10 potentially, look what the Tyler Adams money did. Tyler Adams money came in and it just solved our summer, really. So yeah, definitely. I mean, it's I wonder what the truth of it is, because it feels very similar to the summer, this Everton thing swirling around, and stories leaking about him not being happy that he's not getting many minutes at the moment and that kind of thing. And then I think he did a laughing emoji on an Instagram post or something to kind of downplay it all. So you wonder what the truth is, but I'm sure it's going to be one of those in January that it'll be a bit of a saga again, I can imagine.
I think
God help him if he puts another transfer request in. I'll be like,
I don't think he will. I don't think he will.
You can't do the double. You can't do the double transfer request, surely.
I think he'll end up going to Italy. I think it's kind of written that he will. It's just whether anybody over there will have the money to kind of put up. Everton don't have the funds to do it. They just don't. I think whoever buys him is probably going to cost them a minimum 25 mil with maybe a 20% add-on sell-on fee and maybe 5 mil after winning the league, or if it were Juventus, just say. I think it'll be the best part of 30 million quid plus a signing a sell-on percentage. And I truly believe, mate, it's the best for all parties. I think it's the best for him, because I think he does need a bit of a restart after what happened in the summer. I think he always looked. I think he looked all right at the weekend, actually, but for the majority of this season, I think he's always looked a bit flat. He's always looked like he's not really fully understood what he's doing. He doesn't look like he can fully beat a man, or I don't know. It just doesn't feel like it's fully clicking to me, and he certainly don't give us as much as the other two do, Cree and Dan James for me. Jadon Anthony, I think, is comparable in that I think Anthony's played well in moments when he's come off the bench, but I think when he's started games, I think he's been poor. His two starts, I think, have been really poor. So yeah, for me, mate, if we can, and then we can replace his role in the team with Gio playing his actual position, maybe linking in with the 10 at sometimes, and then a 10 coming in, a natural 10. I mean, imagine if we could sign, Pablo Hernandez when he was 28. Like we did when he first came, somebody of that ilk. I mean, this team would just go to another level with an out-and-out 10. I truly believe that.
That'd be phenomenal. Jones, people call me crazy, but whatever his potential is, he has never massively done it for me. Had a purple patch at the start, but there is a lot of work for him to do. Thank you for your
I agree 100%. I honestly, I implore you to all go back and look at last season and really think about when he influenced games, and I'm telling you, it was no more than 5 games all season. And I'm not saying that we should have expected more than that, but you have to handle what we're talking about with then the air of reality and a bit of perspective, because it weren't as ground turning as what you maybe are thinking. I remember saying to you that he'd gone off the boil. I mean, after Gracia came in, we literally didn't see him until the end of the season. So that were about 12 games that he were completely gone. I mean, he didn't play. He played Allardyce's first game and then didn't play again. You know, the Man United games, I think he played well in both them. He certainly played really well at Old Trafford. And I think there were a couple of games when he first came into the team where you're like, oh, there's some player on his hands here. And he scored a couple of really nice goals. But I'm telling you, we're no more than 5 games. No more than 5 games. No. Sinisterra was the player that stood out last season, but he just couldn't play enough because of his injuries.
No, exactly. A bit of an interesting Sinisterra debate. Would you have him back, Jason, personally next year, despite everything? For that quality, I mean, you saw it at the weekend for Bournemouth, looking very sharp, looking back to his best. It's almost these days, I think, with football, it's like, you know, what morals are they in football anyway? Like, listen, if he's got the quality, maybe we just say, you know what, forget it. We've got a Premier League player on his hands for nothing, so to speak.
Putting the gun to his head like he did with the legal wranglings just leaves a really sour taste to me. I don't want anybody back. I don't want anybody back that's going to kind of upset the apple cart and take away from what we've now, I do believe we've created again. I personally know, but I get your point. You're right. Like, football's just not got any loyalty, and he's class. I mean, you saw it at the weekend. The turn that he did when he brought it onto his right foot and he, in one motion, turned it onto his left foot and hit it first time. Beautiful. He's quality. He's absolutely quality.
Yeah, I think we might be coming round to it. We never know. A couple of transfer rumours, although one seems to be about to go ahead. That kind of brings up an interesting debate in football. And we'll start with Archie Gray, first of all. A lot of rumours coming out about Archie now. I think even Fabrizio Romano's tweeted about it as well. Links with Liverpool for 50 million, on Man City's radar, Arsenal's radar. I mean, you know, Archie Gray's the jewel in the crown, isn't he, at the moment? He is the star boy. He's the one with all the potential. You know, he's played at England youth level. You know, he's absolutely flying. He's been a revelation this season. How do you see that one panning out? Because obviously he's got the Gray dynasty behind him. You know, the thought of him going to Liverpool in January or next summer I mean, it kills me. Like, please, no, don't let it happen.
I would be absolutely stunned if he went anywhere in January. Absolutely stunned. Yeah, because it's gonna cost any team 30 million for a lad that's on an next to nothing contract at 17, and I can't imagine that any team would want to just plow in with that kind of money. And then I think anything further from the summer, because I would imagine a new contract's coming, there's no way that he leaves without signing another contract in between now and then. I can't believe that, given who he is, you know, his family, you know, and all the rest of it that comes with that. I would imagine that a new contract will be coming. If we go up, I would imagine that he'll probably be here until he's at least 20. That's my gut feeling. If we don't go up, that's a completely different conversation. Because if we don't go up, I do believe that Liverpool or a Man City would probably put the 30 to 40 million down, whack him on a 6-year contract, and send him out on loan to a Dortmund or somewhere, even maybe in the continent, you know, to further his development. And then he's there to be a ready-made replacement and be an £80 million footballer in 18 months, 2 years' time, after this coming summer. So I think there's two different eventualities to it, but I do not see for a second that he'd leave in January. I don't even think it'd be good for him. I don't believe it'd be good for him. But the problem for Leeds is that he's now shown already that he's well capable of handling men's football and a high level of men's football really early, like really, really early. To play, you know, already 15 games and to be relied on as much as he has.
It's not far away from Bellingham, is it, really? It's not a million miles away from what Bellingham was doing earlier.
It's not, mate. And he not only that, he's not showing that far off of the performances of Bellingham as well. When Bellingham first hit the scene at 16, 17, you know, the performances were comparable, and the involvement and impact that Archie's having on the game is comparable to what Bellingham was having. So these teams, once these big clubs, once they see that these players, especially English players, because of the quotas and whatnot that come with that, and endorsement, sponsorship, and all the rest of it, they are desperate for these to be part of their teams. And 30-40 million quid is nothing for them to put down on these kind of players that are showing that they're capable of playing men's football at 17. Like, most young players don't find full kind of maturity until 22, 23, until they start really impacting games. Maybe a little bit early, 2021 minimum, not 17. And Archie's, not only is he showing the capabilities to be able to compete, he's dominating games at times. He's having such an influence that he's helping his team win from a vital part of the position, part of the team in centre midfield, and he can play right back. You know what I mean? Like, teams love versatility and being able to play different positions. So he's going to be hard to keep hold of, mate.
Well, for me, you've got to get promoted. You've got to be in that Premier League to even stand a chance. You've got to be in the Premier League, and we just can't be messing around with the Championship, because we will lose these players. I mean, as Skip says here, his little bro is just as good yet. Harry Gray, he's meant to be phenomenal. He's a striker. I mean, I think he's about 15 or something, maybe a bit younger. You're going to lose them all, or you're going to lose them all. Teams will come and pickpocket, because, as we've said, CB here, we're just about to sell a youth player to Man City. We are
Finley
Gorman, who some of his videos went viral of him just scoring absolutely worldy goals and worldy assists, and he looks incredible on these videos, and he got a bit of buzz. And I think even back then they were on about teams trying to pinch him, and it turns out today that Leeds have secured, I think it's the largest ever fee for a player of that age. It's a 7-fee figure, about £1.5 million or something. He's only 15, but he's played, I think, above his level, certainly for Leeds and England youth teams as well. A phenomenal talent. But Man City, obviously, who were the absolute powerhouse in world football, state-backed, deep pocket, unlimited deep pockets, can buy anyone they want to, really. Won the treble last year. They just come in and take him. And, I had a little moan and a whinge about it on the group chat today, because I hate seeing this stuff. And I know, we've done it to other teams. I know we took Gellert from Wigan. We've done it countless times. It sucks when it's happening to you. It's frustrating as well, because I still feel like Leeds shouldn't be getting these youngsters nicked, but the reality of the situation is we're a Championship club, and they're, money bags Man City, and if they want your player, there's not much you can do.
I think we need a little bit of perspective with it, right? This happens all the time. Like, look at Sam Greenwood. We took him from Arsenal. Like, this happens all the time, and this is when we were only coming up. We weren't big fish in comparison to Arsenal. Like, youth players move around all the time, and you can't, I don't think, blame the player for taking this opportunity. And the facts are, Leeds will have only had, the only thing that had been at their kind of disposal is convincing the player that the project is right to stay at Leeds, because there will have been no contract. You can't sign a contract at 15-year-old. So you can sign a pre-contract for when he turns 17, I think it is. Before that, it's a scholarship, and you can leave at any time for another club. You just have to settle a fee or a tribunal. And the facts are that Man City have come in and said, we're going to give you a record fee for a 15-year-old. You don't even know if he's going to make the 21s at this stage. Yeah, even if he's playing up an age group, that doesn't mean that he's going to be able to play in men's football. Like, so 1.5 million, and I'm hearing it's 20% of any future sell-on fee, which could potentially...
Quite tasty.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that City, if he's good enough, don't have to sell him, and if he's not good enough, then they'll sell him for nothing. And they'll probably have a buyback and all this that comes with it and all that stuff. But my point is that he's 15, and this happens behind the scenes without us hearing about it all the time. players moving. Gaz in our group made the point that we'd taken a bang from Bradford City, kind of went under the radar. He's under 16s goalkeeper. He's playing in the under 18s for Leeds United at the moment, expected to be one of the next best things in that department. It happens all the time. So for us to get 1.5 million quid, the same amount that we're going to get for Sam Greenwood from Middlesbrough, as an example, right?
Phenomenal.
For a 15-year-old we don't even have a clue about how good he's going to be yet. It could not develop at all. They're paying for the potential that he might. And for the player, you can't blame him for wanting to be a part of what City have got going on, can you, really?
No.
They've shown a pathway to the first team in the likes of Foden and Rico Lewis, who's just got a call up to the England squad today.
The way they could develop talents, the Cole Palmer, and even if you don't end up playing your career there, you developed, aren't you, to the highest
40 million
level.
quid deal at Chelsea without even playing for City, really, Cole Palmer. Yeah. So I don't blame the player at all. I don't blame the player at all.
No, exactly. A quick mention, actually, because he's helped us out massively. Eric, I think 1.5 million for Greenwood is a steal, though. Yeah, the free kick. Oof. I mean, we were waiting for him to do that for us for a long time, weren't we?
Just couldn't compose himself, could he, for Leeds, for some reason?
Another one.
We'd seen so many of them at 23 level.
Yeah.
Whipping him in. I mean, he's one of the best free kick takers I've ever seen playing a Leeds shirt, but his first team free kicks were horrendous. It's unbelievable. He's up there. He's got a technique of a Beckham, of a Hart. He really does. He's that good. But he just couldn't put it together in a Leeds. I think he's a top player. And just played in the wrong position for Leeds.
What do you think about this then? Speaking of Greenwood, he's been wrongly valued by the club. I think everybody had raised eyebrows at the 1.5 million fee. I mean, I'm guessing, is that locked in? They're gonna trigger that. That's been agreed, or do you think that's massively undervalued, Greenwood? Are you surprised how little it is?
I don't think he had that long left on his contract. That's the problem. I think he's only got a year after this year.
Right.
So they're paying 1.5 million for a year, basically. And I would imagine that there'll probably be some sort of sell-on fee included in that one as well, 10, 20%, something like that. If he then sells, gets sold on. I was disappointed because I remember when he came on against Salford, he looked good. I've always been a bit of an admirer of him, but I think it's more because I've seen him at 23 level, whereas fans just watch him at first team level, and rightly so, never really saw too much in him. But he was played at centre midfield. For me, he's a 10 or even maybe a 9. He's certainly not a centre midfielder in a box-to-box form like
Jesse Marsh, thank you for that one.
Well, it would be Bielsa as well, to be fair. Bielsa played in there as well. So I never really understood it, but he did. And he was fabulous at 23 level. He played in behind Gellart, and the pair of them together absolutely ripped things to bits. I mean, them two, Somerville and Cody Drameh, all played together. And I mean, the four of them were exceptional. So I hope he goes on and does well. Like, I know axe to grind from me. And I don't know how he's playing for Middlesbrough in particular, but I know since he's come into the team, they've started winning. So, and I know he's got a couple of important goals.
Yeah, in the chat, they made the point of a bit of a kind of Ward-Prowse player, but, Ward-Prowse has his moments, doesn't he, as he proved for the Hammers at the weekend there as well.
My opinions on James Ward-Prowse.
Oh, yeah, we know. We won't set you off again. Couple of interesting bits coming out. Michael Skubala has made the switch over. He's going to take charge of Lincoln City. Our resident non-league host, Chris Bell's Lincoln City, who've been on the search for a manager, lots of links with different people, but it's Skubala who's got it. So he departs Leeds. He came to prominence last year when he stepped in after Marsh had got sacked, and initially there was a kind of quick burst of positivity from him. A great performance against Manchester United at Old Trafford and narrow defeat at home, but then a really poor Everton performance, and then the clamour to get a proper manager was there, I think, from everybody. But certainly someone who handled himself really well during that time. Was a bit of a breath of fresh air, actually, when he came and replaced Marsh. We just wish him well, don't we, really? Because, it's a massive opportunity for him.
I think if he beats Everton, he probably gets the job till the end of the season. Last season, by the way. And I wouldn't have been in that camp that had wanted that. I said that at the time. I thought he was completely and utterly out of his depth, given where he'd come from to then be managing in the Premier League, and given the position we'd found ourselves in and all the rest of it. Like, I thought it was unfair to him, really, to expect that of him. But he did. You're absolutely right. He handled the whole situation really well. He likely will have, grown his own development from that position. It probably has helped him get this position at Lincoln, starting at a good level. I think, where he's going in, he's kind of missing out on a couple of levels, considering his background, in futsal and. But he's well thought of in the system. I know that I believe that he's well thought of by Gareth Southgate. I think they know each other. I think he's had some involvement at England levels, youth, 15, something like that. So good luck to him. And he seems like a top guy, and he's earned the right at a full-time gig. I hope it goes well. Just like I hope it went well for Jacko, and unfortunately it didn't, and he's over in Australia now. But I think he can do a good job there. I definitely think but I think it's hard to know from his time at Leeds exactly what style he plays, what he's going to want from his team. I don't think we as Leeds fans can even really know that.
No, absolutely not. No, it's a tricky one, isn't it? It's going to be interesting, and I'm glad we've got Chris in the group chat. He can keep us informed, can't he, of how he's getting on there. It's funny actually, because we've supplied the Football League with a few managers, haven't we? Recently, we've got Corberan and Mark Jackson, and with different levels of success, so to speak. Just something I wanted to touch upon as well before we kind of wrap everything up. It's the 80th birthday of Howard Wilkinson today, the second most successful Leeds United manager we've ever had in our history. He was in charge of the club when I first started supporting the club. Is he a little bit before your time, Jason?
Yeah, well, I was born in 1990, but obviously, I was like 2 when we won the top division at the time. Obviously, I don't remember him, but I'm a bit of a student, if you like, so I know all about Wilco's time, and I know about his work with the youth and everything that kind of went in with. Was it Paul Hart into then what came under George Graham and David O'Leary? I know about all of that. I know about the demise as well, and how the position that we kind of found ourselves in when he got sacked. And the club, I believe the club gave him all the time in the world to kind of try and pull it round. And but he gave us obviously the promotion and then the championship win. And I think for any Leeds fan lucky enough to be around at the time to be able to remember all that, certainly will have been probably the best time since the Revie era to be a Leeds fan. I think, more recently we've had O'Leary and then obviously Bielsa, but apart from that, the success has been minimal since Wilkinson. He's the only English, the last English manager to win the top flight division. No English manager has ever won the Premier League, which is wild to think. Hell of a guy, and happy 80th, I think. I think his impact at Leeds, especially with the youth development, Thorpe Arch, what he implemented there has paid dividends time and time again with Leeds through the years. We've seen it. And for me, I actually think we need to make a bit of a bigger deal about Howard Wilkinson. And I'm talking from the club and how it celebrates that time and Howard Wilkinson. I feel like it's a little bit of a underplayed. You don't see Wilco at the games or anything. Let's get him down there. Let's get him on LUTV. Let's kind of celebrate it a bit more.
I
think it's so overshadowed by the fact that it weren't the Premier League. I think that makes part of it, because I think people have forgotten that football existed before 1992. And I also think the way that it went so south when he left. Sometimes you can stick around so long that you become the villain, and I think Bielsa was a little bit of an example of that. And I think Wilkinson was probably similar in that, because he left under such a nasty cloud. I think Claudio Ranieri similar at Leicester. I think he would have just walked away. He's never going to get any better than that. You know what I mean? So I think that kind of unfortunately tarnishes it a little bit. You're right, mate. You're absolutely right. We herald some of the players from different generations, even one in David Batty. If David Batty was somebody that loved the media, he'd be all over the club. And he was part of that team that won in 1992. And for some reason, Wilkinson just don't get thought of in the same light, really.
No. A couple of things here, Dav. Sergeant Wilco never got over selling Cantona. Yeah, I mean, that is your fork in the road moment for Leeds, isn't it? That's your sliding doors moment, really.
Pretty wild, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Eric, yeah, I'm 92, literally born when we last won it. Yeah, exactly. Gale, Speed, Strachan, McAllister, Batty, what a midfield, and Chapman up front. I mean, that midfield for me is just, it's got absolutely everything you would want in a midfield. I mean, that midfield could live today and be top for me. It was just absolutely phenomenal.
What midfield? I mean, Gary Mack, like, I'd argue that Gary Mack probably is the fourth in that four there, but he gets so kind of misthought of and misrepresented in history. I think Gary Mack, he was some player. Yeah. I mean, he was still playing top level at Liverpool way into his 30s. He's a hell of a player. Strachan, obviously had been on the red side as well, and then come over and did what he did. Gary Speed and Bats were just at the beginning of their careers, really, and both went on to have fantastic careers. I mean, people forget that David Batty's a Premier League winner. Like, hell of a. Whenever I see people debating over the DM position, and people just don't talk about him, and he was a ball player. His tackling ability was obviously second to none. His ability to be able to spray balls and his reading of the game and his work rate was like, honestly, nearly 50 appearances for England, David Batty. Like, phenomenal. 50 appearances for England, and he retired at 32. 33 early, really. So people forget, man. They forget the quality of that team, but that midfield, I mean, wild midfield.
Absolutely, indeed. So happy birthday, Sergeant Wilco. Onto the next one. But yeah, it's been that's pretty much the end of the show. Now we've wrapped a few things up, lots to get through. Please get your comments in if you're watching this again. On video, or if you
Dav's showing his age.
Here we go. Lauren Brendan. Hey, what an era though, eh? What an era to watch. Blimey, I'm just that's my dad is that. My dad got to see all the Revy stuff. And
CB, if you ever stuck for a book to read, go and read David Batty's autobiography.
Oh, phenomenal!
It's a fantastic book. It's a great book. And
it's just amazing.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. He not only did he not love football, he hated football. His dad forced him to play. He would putting him outside at all times of night. And
him and Wilco didn't get on either, did they? Him and Wilco never got on.
No, they didn't get on. And Batty never wanted any sort of the limelight. And no surprise. I mean, you can see that by how he's kind of left the game behind after football. But what a player, what a guy! Like top man. He's my favorite player ever.
Our mission, we need David Batty on this channel. Can you imagine the numbers you would get for getting David Batty on this channel in my wildest dreams? But
Leeds fans have gone mad.
I can't imagine him ever doing it.
Don't he live on like a pond in France or something? I'm sure he lives like...
Yeah, I've heard of stuff like he's got a caravan in like Skegness or something like is one of the things. I'm like, it's just... it's phenomenal. It's just, I mean, he must be like, he'll be in his 50s or something.
Yeah, 50s.
So, Jesus, yeah, what a legend, though. What a player. Lovely stuff. Yeah, so please smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Myself and Jason will be back. Bit of a busy week this week, but we'll try and get some content and stuff out there. But it's been great having you all along and getting your comments in, and we'll be back again. I've been Stephen Brown. With me has been Jason Booker. Jason, thank you very much, my friend.
You. Don't enjoy the international break too much, will you guys?
Oh yeah, we'll try, won't we? Yeah. And we'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching.